In 1955, Citroën built a car that looked like it came from 2025. Self-leveling suspension, futuristic design, technology that seemed impossible. The DS predicted a future of advanced French engineering dominating the world. That didn't happen, but the DS wasn't alone. Throughout automotive history, cars have predicted futures that never came to be. Some because the industry ignored them, some because they were actually terrible ideas, and some just because timing is everything. Today we're looking at 5 cars that got the future wrong. Or did we get it wrong by not listening? Let's get into it. Car number 1, Citroën DS, 1955 to 1975. Let's start with the car that inspired this whole video, the Citroën DS. When this thing debuted at the 1955 Paris Auto Show, it looked like nothing else on Earth. Low, sleek, aerodynamic, it genuinely looked like a spaceship compared to the boxy cars of the era. But the styling was just the beginning. The DS had hydropneumatic suspension that could self-level, adjust ride height on the fly, and deliver a ride quality that wouldn't feel out of place on a modern luxury car. It had power steering, disc brakes, and a drag coefficient that was decades ahead of its time. This wasn't just futuristic styling, this was legitimate engineering innovation that solved real problems. The DS predicted a future where French engineering would lead the automotive world, where suspension technology would prioritize comfort and adaptability, where aerodynamics would matter more than chrome and fins. And you know what? They were mostly right. Modern cars have adaptive suspension, aerodynamics are everything now, and the DS's design language influenced generations of vehicles. The only thing they got wrong was thinking France would dominate. By the 1970s, Japanese reliability and German engineering had taken over the luxury market, and Citroën's complex systems got a reputation for expensive repairs. But the core ideas, the DS nailed them 30 years early. That's not a wrong prediction. That's just being so far ahead that nobody could follow. Imagine walking up to a gas station and filling your car with kerosene, or vegetable oil, or literally anything flammable. That was the promise of the next car. Car number 2, Chrysler Turbine car, 1963 to 1964. In the early 1960s, Chrysler had a vision. Forget pistons, forget conventional engines. The future was jet turbines in passenger cars. And they actually built it. The Chrysler Turbine car looked like something from the Jetsons. Bronze paint, turbine-inspired styling, and under that sleek body was an actual jet turbine engine that could theoretically run on diesel, gasoline, kerosene, or even vegetable oil. Chrysler built 55 of these and loaned them out to regular families across America in a public test program. This wasn't vaporware. These were real, functional turbine-powered cars driving around in traffic. The turbine had some genuine advantages. Fewer moving parts than a piston engine, smoother operation, multi-fuel capability, and it sounded absolutely incredible, like a miniature jet taking off every time you accelerated. So why aren't we all driving turbine cars today? Because the fuel economy was absolutely terrible. The turbine was efficient at full throttle, but at idle or low speeds, which is most of city driving, it was a fuel-guzzling nightmare. Throttle response was sluggish, the exhaust was hot enough to be dangerous, and the complexity wasn't worth the benefits. Chrysler quietly ended the program in 1966 and destroyed most of the cars. A few survive in museums today as fascinating artifacts of a future that never should have happened. The turbine car predicted a future of alternative powertrains and multi-fuel capability. They were right about that need. We're still trying to figure out sustainable fuel sources, but turbines were absolutely the wrong solution. Car number 3, Tucker 48, 1948. Not all visionaries get a fair shot. Preston Tucker's story is one of brilliant ideas, bad timing, and questions that still linger 75 years later. The Tucker 48, also called the Tucker Torpedo, was Preston Tucker's attempt to revolutionize the American automobile industry in 1948, and it had ideas that were genuinely decades ahead. Center-mounted headlight that turned with the steering wheel to illuminate corners, padded dashboard for safety, pop-out safety glass windshield, rear-mounted engine for better weight distribution, disc brakes, a safety chamber built into the passenger compartment for protection. These weren't gimmicks, these were legitimate safety and engineering innovations that the big 3 automakers hadn't bothered with. Tucker saw a future where cars were safer, handled better, and were built with the driver's protection in mind. Only 51 Tucker 48s were ever built before the company collapsed in 1949. Preston Tucker faced lawsuits, SEC investigations, and accusations of fraud, most of which historians now believe were orchestrated by the Big Three to eliminate competition. Was it a conspiracy? Maybe. Was Tucker's company poorly managed and underfunded? Also, yes. But the ideas in the Tucker 48 were sound. By the 1960s and 70s, the automotive industry had adopted almost everything Tucker predicted. Disc brakes became standard, safety features were mandated, rear-engine sports cars proved the layout worked. Tucker was right about where cars needed to go. He just didn't survive long enough to see it happen. Preston Tucker couldn't escape the industry he was trying to change. But sometimes the company trying to innovate is the same one that kills the innovation. Car number 4, GM EV1, 1996 to 1999. The GM EV1 is one of the most frustrating what-if stories in automotive history. In 1996, GM released the EV1 as a lease-only electric vehicle in California. This wasn't some golf cart with a license plate. This was a purpose-built, ground-up electric car with sleek aerodynamics, a range of 70 to 140 miles depending on battery pack, and performance that surprised everyone who drove it. The EV1 predicted a future where electric cars would replace gasoline engines for daily driving. And the people who leased them absolutely loved them. There was genuine demand. Environmental advocates, tech enthusiasts, and California drivers were lining up to lease these cars. And then GM killed the program. Starting in 2002, they began recalling every single EV1, and by 2003, the program was officially canceled. GM refused to renew leases or sell the cars to their owners, and literally crushed most of them in a desert junkyard. A few survive in museums with disabled drivetrains. So what went wrong? Was the EV1 ahead of its time, or was it just a bad idea? Both, actually. The EV1 was right that electric cars were the future. But the battery technology in 1996 just wasn't there yet. Lead-acid and early NiMH batteries were expensive, heavy, and had limited range. The business case didn't work. GM was losing money on every EV1, and with gas prices low in the late 90s, there was no financial incentive to continue. But here's the thing. 10 years later, Tesla proved it could work. The Roadster in 2008 used laptop batteries and better battery management, and suddenly, EVs were viable. The EV1 was right about the future, it was just 15 years too early. And GM crushing them instead of learning from them meant they lost the EV race to Tesla. Right idea, wrong timing, tragic outcome. Car number 5, Mazda RX-7/rotary-engine, 1978 to 2012. There's an engine that sounds like nothing else. Revs to 9,000 RPM. Weighs half what a piston engine does. And almost killed the company that bet everything on it. The rotary engine, specifically Mazda's Wankel Rotary, was supposed to replace traditional piston engines entirely. It was smaller, lighter, smoother, had fewer moving parts, and could rev to the moon. Felix Wankel's design seemed like the perfect solution to the limitations of reciprocating pistons. Mazda bet big on this. They put rotary engines in everything from sedans to sports cars, with the RX-7 becoming the flagship. The rotary delivered incredible performance for its size. The RX-7's 1.3-liter twin-rotor engine produced 255 horsepower, numbers that would require a much larger piston engine. So why isn't everything running on rotaries today? Because the apex seals, the components that seal the rotating triangle inside the housing, were a maintenance nightmare. They wore out, they leaked oil, they failed. Fuel economy was terrible, emissions were worse. And as emissions regulations tightened, rotaries became nearly impossible to certify. Mazda kept trying. The RX-8 ran until 2012, but by then it was clear the rotary was a dead end. The only place rotaries still thrive is in racing, where short-term performance matters more than longevity. The rotary predicted a future where engines would be smaller, lighter, and more powerful. They got 2 out of 3. But reliability and emissions killed the dream. Sometimes cool engineering just doesn't survive real-world physics. So there you have it. 5 cars that predicted the future. Some got it right and were ignored, some got it wrong and failed spectacularly, and some were just too early to succeed. Which one do you think got the future most right? Which one do you wish had succeeded? And are there any other cars you think predicted futures that never happened? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into automotive history and the weird side of car culture, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.